Right, hang on a minute. That's saved. Oh, hang on. Save. Start QuickTime Player. New audio recording. It's very Christmassy. Oh. I thought I was about to be like, hello, as if that's our theme tune. That's got me very excited. He does know how to do a bloody good theme tune, doesn't he? I don't know the one for Ratchet, but all the other ones. Or like
I think I skipped through it. I was
opening credits. Right. I'll get the theme. Are you ready to go in a minute?
Yeah, I've just had a moment where I think I oh no, I did, thank God. I thought I'd deleted the recording of the previous episode. I was like, no.
You know what, yesterday when I went to review the interview, it started off as just me, and I had a paralyzing fear that I'd just fucking recorded me the whole time, but it was fine.
That would be so good.
I wrote out a message to Harry being like, I'm a fucking twat, and then I went, actually just forward a little bit, and it was fine. Okay, let me get the theme music on, girl. Oh, I'm so excited. Right, here we go.
You've got it really far away from the mic, so I can't hear it, but it's fine. Oh, it's going in your headphones, that's why. No?
No, just going. It was just going.
I just can't hear it. That's fine. Anyway.
That's a violin, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And here's what you missed on Glee.
Oh my God. We have to put that in. Anyway. Hello. Welcome to Two Queers, One Pod. I'm Bridie. Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
Evidently you don't need me anymore.
Hello and welcome to Two Queers,
One Pod.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
I'm Bridie. I'm Imogen.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair enough. It's like we're fighting over an answering recording message or something. Right. We are too overexcited today because we're talking about Ryan Murphy's body of work that we have exposed ourselves to. As in the ones that we've watched. He's done loads of stuff, but we're talking about the main stuff, the main series that we have watched of his. So if you don't know who Ryan Murphy is, he is a producer, director, writer. He does all the stuff. And he created Glee. He created American Horror Story, Pose, Ratchet, American Crime Stories.
I watched that too.
Scream Queens. Did you
Pray Love?
Eat Pray? He did do Eat Pray Love then. Wow. All that, and more. So basically, when we decided that we were going to start this podcast, we agreed that we would have an episode dedicated to gushing over how much we love these shows, because they honestly they are like some of my favorite things that I've ever seen or been exposed to while I've been alive. So
some of the things that we bonded over.
Oh, definitely.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah. Oh, my hair is disgusting. I apologize. I apologize to the Patreon subscribers. Yeah, I don't really know where to begin, to be honest, because I feel like it's going to be a lot of just getting very excited. So,
well, let's start chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
So, Glee.
I'm a fan.
You're a big fan.
I know that like when I was a teenager, Glee was the kind of thing where like I had 3 friends that also watched it, and we'd kind of talk about it quietly in the corridor. And if we would get like definitely like bullied if it became like wider knowledge that we were fans. Do you know what I mean? It was that kind of thing. But I absolutely love Glee. I used to like watch it illegally on my computer week by week when it came out, because you know, I couldn't wait for America to decide to give it to the UK so that we could start watching it. I was very impatient. Yeah, and I basically grew up with it. I think I started watching it when I was like 13, 14, and it was one of those shows where my mum would be like, turn off that American crap. No offense to any Americans listening, I am very sorry. But yeah, and I still watch it now. I last watched it through earlier this year, and it got me through a really difficult thing that I was going through. Not the pandemic, it was something different, if you can believe it. But Glee is just, I listen to the Glee cast songs all the time. It's just something that just makes me so happy. I've never really sat down and thought like, why does this bring you so much joy? I think it's because like there's a lot of singing. There's a lot of like high school drama, which I'm drawn in by because my, you know, I guess high school experience was quite boring. So I'm kind of like, oh, you know, it's kind of, oh, I just love it. And it's so gay. And I think that's like,
yeah, and it was kind of gay without ever necessarily saying it was for a while. Like, it had gay characters, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was about musicals.
I guess because Ryan himself is a gay man, he's kind of got that built in, you know. He just did it so perfectly. Like, it was okay, I'll agree, towards the end it got a bit shit. They decided, there was like a season where they introduced the kind of next generation of characters, then that season ended, and then they just all got in the story they all got like transferred for no reason. Like, there was only one character left from that next generation. It was kind of like, what? And it all got a bit weird, and I imagine that's got something to do with Corey Monteith's death in 2013. I remember it well. But yeah, but the first 2 seasons are just so good. I love it.
Yeah, I remember I started watching it after the 3rd ever episode. And I also watched it illegally because there was no other way of watching it. And that was, I think, maybe like my first experience of streaming stuff online.
Me too.
Obviously, that is now a standard. And for any of you younger listeners, I will sound like I'm from the fucking Stone Age.
Yeah.
Because the only way of streaming anything on the internet was to do it illegally.
Yeah.
Most people downloaded or torrented things, but I've always been a streamer.
You're familiar with a good buffer?
Oh god, so much buffering and like crappy image quality, but that doesn't bother me too much. And I used to volunteer in a charity shop, and then every Saturday I would run to the charity shop to talk about it with the one person that I knew that also watched it. Because I think she maybe had like the one channel that it was on.
Yeah.
Like, what was it, on Fox or something? And she had like the expensive channels. So
it was made by Fox, and then over here it got played on E4. E4 doesn't even exist anymore, I don't think.
Oh. I mean, we just didn't have a TV, so
okay.
I don't know. But I know I was watching it as it was coming out. And then just watched it pretty much the whole way through. I think I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
They had all sorts of wild cameos. Like, I remember Sarah Jessica Parker being in it.
Yeah. And Neil Patrick Harris is one of my favourite ones, because that's the one where they sing Dream On with him and Matthew Morrison, and I just think that is absolute better than Aerosmith. I'm just going to say it.
Genuinely, Glee and this, we have a lot of very musical friends and people that are really, really invested in music. And to all of them, if you're listening, I do apologise for this. Glee introduced me to most of the music I know.
No, do you know what?
And I listened to the Glee version of so many of these songs without kind of ever the only thing that I ever listened to before I heard a Glee version of it was the Rocky Horror episode.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know music other than chart music from 2008.
Yes.
Until I watched Glee, and then from Glee and LimeWire, again, showing my age.
So nostalgic, yeah.
Retro. That's
Kids
just
these
my
days
childhood.
don't know.
But we had like an old, like refurbished Mac that we were given by my uncle who worked in a Mac or a shop that sold Macs. So we got it for like super cheap. So we had like a little Mac biscuit tin, and so I wasn't afraid of getting viruses. So LimeWire was my jam.
Amazing.
But I've been saying that's my jam at least 3 times today, and I don't think I've ever said it before in my life.
Whenever you do say it, I do picture just like a jar of jam.
Me too.
I
do
love
like
it.
jam.
That's your catchphrase. That's Imi's jam.
It's my
Imi's jam of the week.
Yeah, Imi's jam of the week. LimeWire. Lime jam. No, sorry. I'm too enthusiastic. Glee was great for me.
Yeah.
They introduced me to a lot of bands that I wouldn't necessarily have known about before. Neon Trees was a good time for me. Young the Giant was another.
Yes.
Another good
Oh,
one.
cough syrup.
Oh
God.
Yeah, no, that was really sad.
I'm like tearing up because I've got When They Do One by U2 in my head. I'm genuinely getting emotional. It's the one where like the episode is where Rachel might have to get is it throat surgery or a nose job? I think it's a nose job.
No, it must be throat surgery.
Oh yeah, it is. It's the one where she thinks that because she doesn't have her voice anymore, her life is over. So yeah, it would be throat surgery. And then Finn takes her to visit his old friend who used to play football with him, but he had an accident and was paralyzed. And then the three of them sang One by U2 together. Oh, and it just, yeah, I think the thing is, when I was a teenager, I wasn't particularly happy, but Glee just moved me in such a way, like, and it's just stuck with me. Like, it is just, because I love music and I love emotional performances and I love silly performances, and it ticks all my boxes, you know.
Yeah, I think, and I'm genuinely, I don't mean to be flippant about this, but I think most of my understanding of social situations and how to deal with emotional situations does come from Glee.
Mm-hmm.
All of my social skills come from The Sims and Glee and sort of other programs that I watched around the time,
mm-hmm.
which isn't the best basis for social skills, but it hasn't done me too badly. It was quite well rounded. They dealt with a lot of stuff. You know, someone had a teenage pregnancy by episode 3,
Mm-hmm.
and not in a sort of super dramatic, scandalous kind of way, but just in a this is stuff that happens kind of way. And they dealt with an awful lot of difficult issues. And I know that Ryan Murphy has potentially dealt with some controversy about the way that he manages Black narratives.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's not for me to really to comment on. But there was a good mixture of different experiences, different classes, different gender expressions, sexualities, and all sorts of stuff, which generally does kind of come to a head in that sort of high schoolish era.
Yeah.
And I think one of the saving graces of it, given the age of the actual actors, is that I have never known what age high schoolers are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what age they are. So the fact that they were all played by people in their 20s was fine, because they're probably like the same age as we are now.
Corey Monteith was 27 when it started. So yeah, it's kind of getting we're getting there. We're catching up. But it's just to me it's just perfect. And I know that like some people don't like musicals, some people don't like kind of cheesy I don't want to stereotype and say American, but that kind of cheesy American sitcom where it's all very like sickly sweet. But the thing is when people say like, oh, Glee's shit, I ask them, have you ever watched it though? Like, have you actually, because it isn't just people singing on a stage, Don't Stop Believing. It genuinely is so much more than that. And it got me, personally on a level, it got me through like my teenage years where a lot of the time I was just kind of sat in my room. I remember I like had to like beg my mum one time, we were in Sainsbury's because they had like the first half of season 2 on DVD. And she, like, bless her, she got it for me, and I absolutely, this was back when we had DVDs and portable DVD players, children, if you are listening, but I literally rinsed that. I would put it on because they had like the episodes, and they had a thing called like the jukebox, where all of the songs from the episodes were like put into like a little special features bit. And before I went to school in the morning, when I got home from school, like constantly it was just like on and playing. And that was the one where they had the Rocky Horror episode, which I absolutely loved. And I didn't really know the musical, but it kind of exposed me to, like you were saying earlier, loads and loads of artists that I may not have known about.
It's just really joyful, even though they do go through like a lot of emotional stuff and some hard-hitting topics. Like the undercurrent of it is generally just, it's really cheerful and joyful and emotional,
and it explores like real people problems, but
through song.
Yeah. But it doesn't like, it's definitely flawed in some ways, but it doesn't kind of so shows like I recently watched The End of the Fucking World, which is completely different, but the themes of it kind of it's definitely something that's made for teenagers, and I know some adult people who really enjoyed it, but for me it just felt like way too much. I'm a very sensitive person, I'm very empathetic, and it was so dreary that I felt it like dragging me down. Whereas Glee, even though it explores like sad and upsetting subjects, it doesn't leave you then just like, oh. It makes sure to put like a bop, like a musical number at the end where they all say it's gonna be okay, keep holding on, etc. But yeah, thank you.
The flip side, American Horror Story, though.
Yes, let's move on to that.
To move on to the next big one for both of us. Again, dealing with some weird topics, and sometimes maybe not in the best way. But aesthetically speaking, spot on. Casting decisions, spot on.
Yeah.
Music, soundtrack, score, always top tier. Settings and scenery and things, incredible. Plot lines,
bizarre,
genuinely pretty solid, but
it's kind of like,
him. Yeah, I'm glad he has the creative outlet, because if he was just let loose on society,
oh my god, yeah. I don't, obviously, spoiler alert, we haven't really said that yet, but if you haven't watched any of these things and you want to, we don't have to dig into like really specific storylines, but
no.
Just be aware that we might. So sorry. But yeah, I remember when I can't remember if I knew that. Right, so the year that I watched it, I think, was 2014, and I watched Murder House, and which is series 1, and I don't think at the start I knew that it was also created by it was the guy who did Glee. I can't remember, but I remember watching it with
because why would you?
No, exactly.
Why would you? They are polar opposite things.
Yeah. I feel like the only thing that would tie them together is the choice of song, the choice of music that Ryan Murphy just has such a talent for taking a song and applying it to like a narrative, to a story. But I remember watching Murder House and just being like, whoever, and it's also worth saying that it's also Brad Falchuk as well who is involved. They are collaborators and have been for a very long time. But it is just kind of like, where do these ideas come from? Like, they are so bizarrely creative and so kind of like shocking, but in a way, again, that doesn't gross people out. It doesn't use people or real life people or real life experiences and then makes people think that they're like disgusting. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, thinking about series 5, which is Freak Show.
Yes.
I think, if I've got my chronology right.
I recently watched that one,
which I think it's a tricky one. You know, that's going to be a tricky setting for anything. You know, particularly. Yeah, so it's like 1950s at a freak show, at a circus, and they had a a really, really great cast that inevitably ended up being sort of supporting actors to Jessica Lange and the other like able-bodied recurring cast members.
Yeah.
But the people who are the quote unquote freaks are the most human people
In the
in there,
series.
and it's
Yeah.
always the outsiders, the external people who are the bad guys.
Mhm.
Really, like the whole cast of the freak show are all fully fleshed out characters. None of them are just totally like, there's certainly no like inspiration porn.
Mhm.
There's no these people are gross because they're disabled.
Yeah.
They're they're fully multifaceted human beings, and then anyone that is like a proper bad guy is either an actual demon
Mhm.
or
The police.
people that don't understand. Yeah, generally the police, ACAB.
Yeah.
Ryan Murphy says ACAB.
Yeah, and it's kind of, and it's also a good kind of commentary on that period of time where community was the thriving thing for these marginalized people, and it's unfortunate that it's kind of pushed that the only place that they could go was the circus, because, but like based on their varying disabilities, but but the focus of like community, and I think that's a running theme throughout all of his seasons.
Yeah, it's people that wouldn't necessarily fit in anywhere else find somewhere where they do belong, whether they be ghosts, whether they be witches, whether they be just kind of people thrown together by circumstance.
Yeah, like in Hotel.
Yeah.
I love Hotel, and it's obviously just because, like, not just because, but mainly because Lady Gaga is in that series and she is amazing. But like they all, some of them are better than others. I've watched some, for example, Cult, where I was just kind of like, it's not bad, but it isn't good. It's
the
not
first few episodes are really crap. It sort of pulls it together by the end. Roanoke was pants.
Yeah.
I started watching the 1980 whatever one.
I watched
rubbish.
Apocalypse recently. That was the one that we started together, and then it kind of fizzled.
Yeah, that had good moments, and yeah,
it was okay, but I just didn't really understand. It just kind of sort of turned on its head and never went back. Like the plot, and people who have watched these series will know what we're talking about. So, but if you haven't, then do, and see what you think about it, because I think the running theme throughout all of these of the American Horror Story seasons is that if you appreciate, like, and I'm trying not to sound like a dick here, but like good cinema, if you appreciate, like, if you're a kind of an analyst, is that the right word?
Potentially.
Of good shots and good sound and good mise en scène, etc., you will love most of the seasons that they've done, because it's just pulled together very well, and he is such a creative person and director.
Yeah, and series 2, which is the Asylum one, is one of the few things I've ever watched set in an asylum that didn't make me want to pull my own eyes out.
Yeah.
Because usually, like with the circus one, usually it's all about fear mongering and making mad people seem like really scary or dangerous and like not very human, but it really looks quite firmly in the face of the 1960s attitudes towards gay people and mentally ill people and disabled people, and how they were completely trapped in the cycle of the sort of carceral medical complex, which is still an issue today. Once you get committed, it's it's on your record forever, etc., etc. And so he deals with some really interesting human issues, and like I said about other ones, the bad guys are always people.
Yes.
And they usually have like other motivations, but it's as much as there's a lot of kind of supernatural stuff that happens in them, he's quite what was it, like, what's the quote, like, hell is empty, all the devils are here. It's like that sort of quite the vibe.
Absolutely. And it was another thing that I'd written down that he'd said. A quote was, I made or in his work, he makes gay sidekicks the leads. But if we remove the word gay, just for this, what we're talking about here, a consistent theme with all of his work really is that he makes the characters, okay, apart from Glee, because Rachel being the main character was kind of, you know, a given, although she was, you know, had 2 gay dads and whatever. In American Horror Story, and we're going to move on to Pose in a second, he has a very, I'm very excited. He has a very good knack for taking those characters that usually would have been, you know, sidekicks or secondary or even like villainous just for the people that they are. He makes them the main characters and tells their story, and I think that's rare, and I think that's a very, very important part of his work, which is why I want everyone who listens to this podcast to, if you don't know any of the things that we've mentioned, please watch them. I think they're all on Netflix now.
I think so. Just, you know, pick one, see what you think.
They are, and it's all so different. There is something for everyone, I would say.
Yeah, Glee is musical, fun, high school greatness.
Yeah.
American Horror Story is spoopy and scary and nail biting and very gory.
Very
at
artistic,
times.
Very stylized as well.
Yeah. American Crime Story is fucking true crime stuff, but done in a very artistic, stylized way. Again,
I haven't watched any of that, so that's going on my list straight away.
Yeah, they've done O.J. Simpson and the assassination of Versace.
Okay.
And Darren Criss assassinates Versace. Love it.
Darren Criss has been in all of his stuff as well.
I think. He pops up in as cameos in all sorts of things. Scream Queens, I didn't particularly get on with. It was just a bit shrill, which sounds very sexist, but it was more just the whole like sorority vibe that I didn't particularly get on with. But that has Ariana Grande in it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to put that on my list as well. I want to try all of his stuff, really, because, you know, I'm kind of a fan of... It depends on the day, and depends on the mood, but I'm kind of a fan of that super, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That vibe.
And then Pose. Well, Pose.
What is there to say? There is all hours worth of...
Pose is beautiful. Heart-wrenching. It is the thing that consistently makes me cry the most of anything ever outside of like breakups. And I was about to say something very personal, but
we don't know you that well yet.
Yeah. Other than my father, please cut that out. Genuinely, please cut that out.
But yeah, Pose.
But yeah, it's again, soundtrack spot on. Absolutely my kind of music, in fairness. Solid choices, but also the characters, the casting for those characters are the most fully fleshed out, incredible storylines, and people that you feel like you know them.
Absolutely.
You really feel like, even though it's set in the 1980s in New York, in the ballroom scene, which are all things that I have nothing to do with. I am for all intents and purposes, I am a little English white girl living in a town, you know, on the other side of the world, but I feel like I know these people.
Yes. So yeah, if you haven't seen Pose, it's there's 2 seasons of it out currently. They're currently filming the 3rd. Again, obviously made by Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk. I think that's how you say it. Sorry if it's not, if you're listening. And it's set in, I think it starts in the 1980s and falls into the 1990s. And it basically focuses on the underground ballroom scene for queer, Black, trans people predominantly.
And other people of
but
color.
generally, and just the queer community. And it's how... And alongside that, it looks at the AIDS crisis as well. So you've got kind of these...
Well, it's an integral part of that community.
Absolutely,
unfortunately.
Yeah. You've got these...
And so much of the narratives that we have around the AIDS crisis are to do with affluent white men, often. And so to see it through the eyes of the rest of the queer community, you know, people of colour, lower socioeconomic brackets, trans people, gender non-conforming people, who are all there. They just don't get the headlines, they don't get the attention, and it's incredibly poignant. It's a narrative that needs to keep being told, because we forget these stories are so often cast to one side in the sort of like, well, you know, you can get married, sort of, you've got all your rights kind of way. But this is not that long ago.
No, it's really not.
You know, they're nearly up to 1995, and that was when I was born. So like, it's, you know, we're talking half a lifetime ago. And they're such important stories that need to be told and told and told again.
Definitely. So yeah, and you know, even when I first watched it, which I think was only about a year ago,
until I bullied you into it.
Yeah, you
watched it yet? Have you watched it yet?
And then 10 minutes into it, I messaged Imi and was like, "Fucking hell, this took me way too long to watch, but I'm so glad that I only that I'm experiencing it now," kind of thing. And when I was first watching it, my impression was like, "Oh shit, this is what Drag Race is about," as in this is where it comes from. Like, this isn't me being like, all you people that watch Drag Race and don't know where it comes from are stupid, because I genuinely was one of those people that was like, this is really cool. It's like America's Next Top Model, but it's gay. And that was such a, you know, it's not a, I didn't know the history, so it's not like a bad thing, but it was definitely an ignorant thing. And then having watched Pose, I was like, oh, I get it. Like, it's not, it isn't just someone going, America's Next Top Model and all these kind of things were so popular, so let's put a spin on it. It actually comes from a community that and you know, the fact that
well, that's the thing. Now we are so fortunate because we have access to the means to research our history as a community in the way that previous generations had no access to them, because these stories were buried, these people were buried. You know, we lost a whole generation.
Well, they were literally put underground. You know, these balls were underground because they weren't accepted in derelict buildings.
You know, you weren't allowed to be anywhere where the light was. And so I think it's forgivable for people of our generation to not know our history and to not know how grateful we need to be for these people that have paved the way for the freedoms that we have now.
But now that you do know, please watch Pose. You won't regret it. And it's also, I don't know if we've mentioned, everyone in the show that is a trans character is played by a trans actor, which is so important given all the
rare.
So rare. And it's just, and I have watched an interview. So there's MJ Rodriguez, who plays Blanca.
She's so cool.
And India Moore, who plays Angel. They did an interview where India was they were basically saying that, like, we love how popular this show has become, but we are so much more than the fact that we are. And you know, they were just kind of insisting that, and I think Pose does this in a good way, where it doesn't, you know, just talk about, it doesn't just explore these characters and these people based on the fact that they are trans. They are so much more than that. You know, they have so much, like, it's important, but they,
I mean, it's a part of their life, and it impacts how they live their lives, because society doesn't fully accept all people in the way that their race isn't all that they are, but it has a fucking great big impact on how they move through the world, through New York City in the 80s, through the situations that they end up in. And our parallel is, you know, we are queer. We are so much more than queer. To go back to the point that I've made in, I think it's the previous episode, was that someone tried to explain this podcast to somebody else and just referred to it as, oh yeah, it's about birds fucking, which we haven't even mentioned yet. So, like, we're a lot more than the people that we go to bed with. the characters in Pose, the characters throughout Ryan Murphy's back catalogue, they are more than their gender, they're more than their race, they're more than the people that they go to bed with. But all of those things impact their storylines because that's what being a person is.
Yeah. But I think the other sort of nuances of these people are so celebrated in like the shots where they're doing like ballroom and they're all like dancing and they've got these incredible like garments on. But again, how we were saying with Glee, it celebrates, you know, queerness and all this stuff so well, but it doesn't ignore hardships. And again, there's the theme of the villains are people, and I particularly love it in Evan Peters' character, Stan, I think his name is.
Oh yeah.
And how his last scene, again spoilers, but whatever, his last scene is basically Angel telling him, "You're not real, like you're, you know,
the fantasy."
Yeah, he kind of got it. He is just like, you know, he's a carbon copy of a man. You know, that is how he is portrayed. He grew up into richness. He's a estate agent or a broker or some kind of upscale job where he works in the city. He has a family and 2 kids, but that is he is, and he says himself, like, he's just like a photocopy, you know. And Patti LuPone's character, who's an utter bitch,
she's so good.
But they are people and they are believable characters, you know. And it's
with their own motivations, and I think that's it, is where you can understand their actions, and because you know you don't necessarily agree with them, but their characters and the plot lines are fully padded out enough where you can see how they got to where they are, and you know these people in your life. You know, we definitely, you know, like I said, we live on the other side of the world 30 years later, or like
and we live
but we know these people.
We
know
do.
The Patti LuPones, we know the Stans, we know these people that fetishize and ostracize in equal measure.
And as such, that then goes back and allows people to understand the main characters of this show and understand that they are also real and these are their experiences. And there is, you know, I could genuinely go on for so long about it and like drive myself to tears with how much I love this show, because it's just, especially as a queer person, like it just fills my heart. And I'm so grateful that you forced me to watch it, because I literally was just like, how the fuck has it taken me this long?
It is really sad, and it is.
Yeah,
there are
yourself,
harrowing
obviously.
Points and storylines.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important, and not just for queer people to watch because it's our history, but for cisgender and heterosexual people to understand more fully what the fight is, more fully what equality would look like, and how recently these things have been an issue and still are issues around the world.
Yeah, and like the people who love Drag Race but have
absolutely
no idea. And you know, I know there are straight people and there are these people who like Drag Race and have absolutely no idea where it's come from. I was watching the Miley Cyrus and Joe Rogan interview earlier in the week, and it actually was very, very interesting. However, there was a bit, and I love Miley Cyrus, but there was a part where she mentions Drag Race and how much she like loves it and is inspired by the drag queens on it and all this kind of stuff. And I was kind of waiting for a mention, because whenever I've seen Lady Gaga talk about it, she is so aware, because she grew up in New York and she grew up in the ball scenes. Obviously she's not, she you know, but it was kind of, it's that kind of, you know, oh, I love Drag Race, like yas, all this kind of stuff. It's a little bit cringe. But
yeah, and it's the thing is that kind of the longer that we exist in the world with the resources that we have in order to do this research, the less forgivable it becomes to not know.
Yeah.
And to not be aware of effectively the cultural appropriation that's going on with, you know, your Yas queens and stuff. And it's like, it's not, you have to know where it comes from and where the struggles that people went through in order to create these creative spaces, because they weren't allowed in the other ones.
Can we
And
just pause for a
it's-
second? My laptop's about to die, so I'm going to just go and grab the charger. Do excuse me. Cool, I'm back. Classic me, just not being prepared enough. We're all good.
And we've been going for several hours at this point.
Oh my god, we actually, what time is it now?
Like 3, half 3.
Oh, okay. I thought we started this episode at 2, but I don't think we did, so it's okay.
No, we've been going for 40 minutes.
Oh, nice.
So we could
yeah.
do a bit about. I mean, you've not watched Ratchet.
I'm happy to.
I suppose I could do a little bit of a précis just about how gay it is.
Please,
then...
yeah. No, I'd love that. And then can we just talk about Sarah Paulson for a little bit as well? Why not? Or is that a whole other episode? Oh,
we probably could, but we shouldn't do a whole episode on Sarah Paulson. But Sarah Paulson was in Horror Story, Crime Story, and Ratchet. So
yeah,
we can definitely use her to like wrap it up.
And she is also in the third film in the M. Night Shyamalan series, Glass, if you've seen that. She's the...
Is Ryan Murphy?
No, but she's in it.
Oh, okay. Yes, she has also been in other films. She is an actress.
But she is like Ryan Murphy's, like one of. He has a thing where throughout all of his seasons, or most of them, he uses characters. He just kind of, which is, you know, you build up.
You have
your
someone. People, don't you? You know, the way that Tim Burton has Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I think his choice of people is brilliant
and really interesting because not always super well known people either.
So yeah, Ratchet, fill me in, convince me.
Well, I only have 2 words for you on Ratchet. Sarah Paulson.
Oh, yes.
Also Cynthia Nixon, for those Sex and the City fans out there. If you ever wanted to see her live out her full lesbian potential, watch Ratchet. So it's a prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest character of Nurse Ratched. And you learn kind of how she got to where she is, why she is the way she is. It's very compelling storytelling. It's also beautifully done. The costumes are absolutely on point. The locations, the sets, it's impeccable aesthetically. Again, still in a sort of mental institution, which always gives me... I wasn't going to watch it because I don't like watching stuff that's set in places like that. Either if they're not going to be historically accurate, because then that's just really awkward and gross, but then if they are historically accurate, it's just really harrowing. So it's not too bad. They still allude to old-fashioned methods that were used in such institutions, which I skip through because
it's just sometimes it's just needlessly traumatic, isn't it?
Yeah, and they were better than some things I've seen. Like they're careful with their camera angles and stuff, which I appreciated. But yeah, it's just really useful, and it's another one for his catalogue of really beautiful stylized storytelling. I didn't know it was going to be gay. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it's gay. I think people have already said that sufficiently on the internet.
It's been out for long enough where we don't even have to, you know, if you haven't watched it, then that's your problem. Including myself.
With Glee, I understood your point on that because that started coming out like 15 years ago. But Ratchet's only been out for about 6 months. So you would be forgiven for not having watched it yet. But yeah, I just highly, highly recommend it. There's some good food. I've already mentioned Cynthia Nixon. There's good casting. It's a good time.
Brilliant. Great.
Sarah Paulson.
Oh, I love her. Yeah, she's amazing. She's so diverse. Like, she can really just do anything. I mean, not anything, but all the stuff she has done very different. She's not like a what's the phrase? Typecast. necessarily. I mean, you could argue that she's typecast based on how good she is at variation, and that's potentially why she's been in every single. So American Horror Story, I don't think we mentioned, is an anthology series, so it doesn't flow. There's not a flowing story really.
Each
There's
series
Easter
is a different
eggs.
story.
Yeah, each series focuses on a different era, a different kind of, main subject.
Same with American Crime Story.
Yeah, but she is in all of them, and she plays a different, like a very conceptualized different character in every series. So I get excited when I see her in things, because you just don't know what to expect. Like, it's kind of like, is it going to be something that we have seen before? Is it going to be something completely new? Because I'm still being surprised by her like abilities as an actor, and I think, yeah, she's definitely one of my faves. And I only recently figured out that she's actually queer in real life, and
Can't
has
believe you didn't know that. That
I
was so
can't
funny.
believe I didn't know that. I messaged you with a picture of her and her partner. I don't think they're married, but she's so she's, I think, 45, and her partner is 77, and is also, I think, the mum in 2.5 Men. Is it Holland Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about 2.5 Men.
She's a character in 2.5 Men. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, and I don't know, a part of that just made me go like, oh, amazing, because when you idolize someone so much and you realize that they're queer, you're just kind of like, oh, thank God.
One of us. One of us.
But yeah, so basically, to summarize this episode,
this was very much for us. We apologize to you, dear listeners. Thank you for any of you if you've got this far. We have taken on, I did a poll on Instagram stories last week about things that you do want us to talk about, and Ryan Murphy was not on it. But this is for us. This is what we love.
We need to get this out. Yeah, it's kind of one of those ones where it's like, if you know what we're talking about, then I hope you got equally as excited. If you don't, I hope that it's potentially inspired you to kind of, and if it's not your thing, then we understand. But also, this
means that we can now make references to Glee, American Horror Story, American Crime Story, Pose, particularly Pose, and Ratched. And
so I do have many quips. Like, I remember on one of the Glee DVDs, there's like the special feature called Sue's Quips, which are so good. And to be honest, when I was watching it, I was just like, I want to be her when I'm older. Like, save for like some of the more controversial stuff, but just with the things she comes out with, I absolutely love her. But yeah, basically, and I've written down another quote from Ryan Murphy that's kind of good to summarize, is that like, when he was kind of starting out creating all of these really amazing shows, he was kind of told when he was one of those that kind of like went to New York in the 1980s with $50 in his pocket, and all of this has kind of come from just, from really, really hard work. And he was often told that like a lot of his stuff was like too gay or too out there. But I think it was last year or 2018, he signed a $300 million deal with Netflix. So it just goes to show that no dream is too small, people. And you can find, I think,
or too big.
That's what I mean. Most, if not all, of his work, or these series that we've talked about today, are available on Netflix to watch. So yeah, get on that. We're in winter now for this side of the world, listeners, so you are likely to just be inside most of the time, and if you haven't watched these, then get stuck in, because it's a bloody good time. And I don't blame you if you stop Glee after season 3. I won't be offended. But yeah, amazing.
So, question of the week.
Ooh.
Who would you want to play you in a TV series about your life?
Oh my God. First of all, why, like,
about your internal life, your imaginary life.
Yeah, so far it's pretty average and boring. But I don't know.
When this podcast blows up and someone inevitably needs to do a biopic about us,
yeah, obviously,
who would you want to be you?
Should we pick someone that's been cast in one of his shows?
If you want to, but
that siphons it down a little bit.
Limit yourself.
Let me think. I was going, for some reason, Chris Colfer came into my head, but that's just because I have short hair. Can I change my life in that I have the ability to sing?
Obviously, yeah, of course.
This is really tricky. Who Oh, I'm only thinking of the male characters. This is really difficult. No, I was going to say Finn Wittrock, but he kind of scares me. Has a scary face,
Yeah, he is intimidating.
very piercing stare. I think I'd just say Darren Criss because I just love him. Like he gets a little bit annoying, but I think
I was
so
going to
do
say
I.
Darren Criss as well.
For yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay.
Darren
okay.
Criss and Evan
I'm
Peters.
manifesting this.
Evan Peters can be me then,
I'm manifesting this. No. We're keeping Darren Criss.
as both of us.
Yeah. So manifesting this in the future when we blow up, we will have a biography film made about us, where Darren Criss plays both of us.
Just
Kind
in
of
different wigs.
Parent Trap vibes. Yeah.
In different wigs.
Okay. If you're listening, Darren Criss, DM me and we'll get on that. We'll organise that.
And we'll be asking you to sing Bills, Bills, Bills.
Oh, right. Sorry. I have to go back. So I saw, and I have to bring up this jumper. So this jumper that I am wearing, hang on a minute, is almost 10 years old. I bought it in 2011. Sorry, non-Patreon subscribers, you won't be able to see this.
We need to stop talking about the Patreon, I swear to God. Glee Live Tour 2011.
Yeah, so this is a spin on a Letterman jacket from when I saw Glee in the London O2 in 2011, obviously, which was almost 10 years ago. And I also had a Warblers t-shirt, which was like a navy t-shirt with like the lapel and the tie printed on. But unfortunately, as time has gone on, I am no longer the same size as I was when I was a 12-year-old. So therefore, no longer fits, but I do still have it.
You'd frame it.
And when they did Bills, I immediately LimeWired that onto my iPod and I rinsed it. Like, I prefer it to the Destiny's Child version. I'm sorry. And I think it's because it's kind of like pentatonic a cappella vibes. Oh my God. Like, I could honestly talk about every song in Glee for like 10 minutes each, but I won't. But potentially for bonus content, if that if that inspires people.
We'll be making a Glee playlist.
Yes. Yeah, actually, speaking of playlists, by the time this comes out, because we just love to do, just to really push the boundaries for how much content we can create alongside this podcast, we have made 2 playlists. So one called Indie Bops, one called Dance Bops, it's Dance Bops. And you can find that if you go on our Instagram, on the link tree, you can find that on there. And yeah, we've just put together they're mostly queer artists or songs that just make us feel kind of happy and jolly. You can check them out. They're on Spotify. And if you do,
and hopefully by the time this episode's up, there will also be a Glee Bops.
Yes, and I'm going to do like sexy bops. I think we were thinking maybe like punk bops, kind of like queer punk bops as well. So we're going for it. But if you do listen to those playlists, do get in touch with us and let us know what you think, if they made you happy, and if there's any songs you'd like to add, I'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah, as always, our DMs are open for suggestions and questions, and
just have we haven't got like a massive following yet. We're just 2 people, so feel free if you ever just want to have a chat with us, like you can, like Amy just said. We're trying to create like a community space here. It's not kind of us and you, it's us all together. But yeah,
we're just 2 little
I've
pals
enjoyed this
sitting
episode.
in your ears, doing your podcasts and also doing your musics.
Indeed.
We just want to be radio DJs,
honestly,
or just normal DJs.
Yeah.
One day, post-pandemic, we will have a club night, and you're all invited.
Oh yes. Oh my God, that would be amazing.
And there'll be like
the Slaughterhouse
a quiet
gang.
chill out space with tea with me, and then Friday will be on
together. We are, because the thing is, we are so close, but we are quite different.
So different.
And we could really cultivate the most amazing space. Like, I'm sorry, like I know that's like up myself or up ourselves, but we actually could. We just know. Anyway,
we cover a lot of bases. Anyway, thank you
we
so
are
much
just
for
talking
listening.
to each other now. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just chatting to each other. But yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week for our festive special.
Yes. So
jingle all the way.
Jingle all the way. Like not just a little bit of the way. All
the goddamn way.
But yeah, you can find us on Instagram at 2queers1pod, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Acast, etc.
Wherever you keep listening.
Indeed. Yeah. I'm excited to listen back to this episode just to make sure that we do form tangible sentences and opinions. I'm not just gushing about our favourite shows. But even if we are, I hope you enjoyed. And thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Bye. Oh, that was a good one. Hang on, I'll stop recording.